Welcome to Prunership Diaries. Today we have with us Nithya J Rao, who is recognized by India Today as India's top 25 entrepreneurs to look out for. She is a psychologist and an entrepreneur. As a rehabilitation psychologist, she has spent nearly 10,000 hours working with young adults and entrepreneurs in therapy. She primarily works with resilience, grief, loss, and trauma, and her work is influenced by Indian philosophy, business coaching, entrepreneurship, and religious study. She is the co founder of Heartitout, a mental health and well being startup that has impacted over 20,000 lives. She wishes to bridge the gap between theory and practice of psychology. And what makes Heartitout unique is that they provide therapy in 11 Indian languages. So, Nithya, welcome, and I'm truly honored to have such a dedicated entrepreneur on my show. And thank you for making time amidst your busy schedule. And welcome to Prunership Diaries.
Thank you so much for having me here. It feels amazing that creators like you are thinking of mental health professionals and entrepreneurship in the space of mental health also as something important to talk about. Feels very nice and warming.
Thank you, Nithya. And I'm so excited for this talk. I've just been waiting for it since we connected. So, do we get started?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So you were a theater artist and you took up psychology because your mother told you to, take something workable. So what
Yeah.
triggered you to take up psychology actually? I mean, was it something where were you fascinated or interested in the mind space to know more about people in and out? What was it?
So interesting. I'm still a theater artist, I think, and in deep down, and it's a big part of what influences who I am as a mental health professional.
Mm-hmm.
What influenced me to take up mental health was my professor who gave me coffee and said, "It's time for you to be a mental health professional." um, uh, when I first got into the profession, I thought it was just something fascinating. Like every other person, I thought I could read minds,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I'd be able to do cool things. But as I stayed here, I realized that there is so much more to mental health than just these quirky things we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also very aware of how pervasive it is in all other aspects of our lives. That our mental health affects our physical health, it affects our
Right.
work, it affects how well we're able to have great relationships um, at the workplace and with like romance. So I feel like mental health kind of made a foundation for everything,
Mm-hmm.
like education, almost like education. So I felt this is a space where I can bring all my skill sets together.
Wow. Okay, that's beautiful, and I'm so glad that you're doing it for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. My mother's also glad I'm doing it.
Wow. Right. Well, before I ask you the next question, I want to tell to the listeners that Nitya is also one of the creators of Lahe Lahe, a performing arts and expression space in Bangalore, which has brought together over 2,000 artists and creators and over 2 lakh people through its various events. She's also the founding member of Katharsis Productions, a theater production house aimed at bringing real life stories and live experiences to the stage. So you've had like 3 to 4 ventures to your kitty. And I know you started your first venture, I think, at the age of 17, if I'm not wrong. So I want to know, how has your journey been, starting off at such a young age and also transitioning from theater to psychology, and I want to know what have been the challenges during, all of the 4 ventures which you have had, and I want you to name a few of the challenges that you have gone through.
Whoa. Okay, so many questions. If I forget one, please remind me.
Absolutely, I will.
Uh, I I started my first successful venture at 17, but before that,
Uh-huh.
I've had quite a few failures. And I think it's
Uh-huh.
important as entrepreneurs that we acknowledge those as well as part of the journey
Absolutely.
because they added so much more to my learning as a person. like everything else has added.
Mm-hmm.
My first venture was, I think, when I was 6 years old, and I started a neighborhood newspaper called Jumbo, which I was selling for 1 rupee. Nobody bought it.
The young, the young entrepreneur already.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, oh, this is really hard. So it's easy to sometimes create a few things, but harder to sell it. So I think very early lessons there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my entrepreneurial lessons, I think, came from theater, which is why it's so important for me that I put it out there that I'm a theater artist as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of everything that I've learned in terms of sustainability, in terms of sales, in terms of operations and processes, have all come to me from theater. Uh, I've not been formally educated with like an MBA or any
Mm-hmm.
of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think theater has really shaped who I am as a business person, while mental health has shaped who I am as a professional caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Catharsis, Quiver before that, even like I'm currently part of Tahato, not as a founding member, but as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
But even the things that I get to, like the little things that I get to give to them,
Mm-hmm.
really influences what I do as an entrepreneur in my daily life. Lahe Lahe has definitely been the most life changing experience in the recent times. Nikhil and Mansi Tad are the founders currently, and they run the place and own it.
Mm-hmm.
They are some of the best mentors to ever learn from and work under. I think I really owe a lot of my learnings from Heartitout to them, because they gave me the platform as a young 23-year-old to go crazy with their space and build whatever I felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're really my role models as entrepreneurial leaders.
Wow. Okay.
Did I miss a question?
Yes. No, I want to know what were the roles that you took up? Like, all of these four ventures that you've had. So, what were the roles? Was it like where donning the hat of an entrepreneur, or was it also designer? I mean, since you were working with in theater, so what were the different roles that you took up?
As entrepreneurs, I think it's really important to know that we will always be Kamwali Bai and CEO.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is, yeah, always. I have cleaned the stage of Rangashankara way more often than I have performed on it. So, I think it's really important to remember that as entrepreneurs, we have to continue to change a gazillion
Mm-hmm.
hats. And theater helped me really step in and out of those roles,
Right.
because as an actor we're always stepping in and out of
Mm-hmm.
roles, and I think one of the things theater offered is a way to step in and out of roles comfortably without feeling too attached to one role or going too deep into one role, to be able to step back and say, okay, I can't do that. The other thing that I've really learned over the years as a skill is, I think, recognizing when we need a co-founder.
Right.
Like Catharsis has four co-founders. Quiver had three when we first started. Now I'm no longer part of it, and I know that my other founder is much better to run it than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Lahe Lahe had four of us when we started. Now there's just two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's super important to realize that we can't sometimes do things alone,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been my biggest learning.
Right, right. I mean, that's beautifully said because I think you can go only so far, like working out just by yourself, probably as a solopreneur. But I think if you aim bigger and you want to scale the business and probably reach out more people, I think you need to have other people who complement your skill set. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's
Left to me, like there would be no money.
wow. All right. Okay. So let's get to Heart It Out. So how did Heart It Out happen? Could you explain what the scenario was right before you started Out It Out? Because I want to know, were you solely taking clients, or were you a group of psychologists who were reaching out to people, having your own respective clients? So I want to know how did it all begin?
Just before Heartitout, I was working with a corporate firm in
Mm-hmm.
Bombay. I was traveling between Bombay and Mohali,
Mm-hmm.
and they were doing some really brilliant work, investing in healthcare and new age technology in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I grew a lot as a person there. But I also realized while I was working there that my heart lies in working with people and in the grassroots. And I really wanted to come back here.
Mm-hmm.
It had been almost 4 years already since I did it, because I did 2 years of Lahe Lahe after that, and then 2 years of corporate. So I think I was really itching to get back. So all I did was like get a space in Kormangala and tell my friends I've started seeing clients. If you know anybody who is looking out for therapy,
Mm-hmm.
just send them over.
Wow.
And my friend Trina decided that she's going to be one of my forebearers and sent across a bunch of clients
Wow.
that I could start with. But very, very quickly, I realized that I might be an okay, good enough psychologist, but I'm really shit at business. And I really had to learn how to make this place sustainable, make this place function, work as a financial model as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just 3 to 6 months down the line, my co-founder joined me, and he saw me struggling managing processes. One time I double booked a client and I was so heartbroken. I was like, I cannot, how? What am I doing?
Right.
So he helped me like infuse technology into it. But today I don't think I can imagine Heartitout at all without my co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
He comes from data and he's also a photopreneur. So
Mm-hmm.
without him, it is impossible for me to see the scale that he's able to imagine
Right.
for Heartitout. And I think our skill sets match so well now that I'm able to bring good content. I'm able to bring the right kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
qualified psychologists. I started out alone by
Right.
myself. And then 6 months down the line, I attended this wonderful workshop by How to Tell Your Child, about how to
Mm-hmm.
tell your child about sex. And
Mm-hmm.
it was really cool workshop. And I met two of my current colleagues there. She was my trainer actually, and she really blew my mind. And slowly we've been growing the team that way, with people who are very invested in people's lives, who are vulnerable as well as qualified. So we're now six psychologists,
Wow.
2 years down the line.
That's wonderful. I think it's so beautiful when you say that you meet like-minded people, just just probably. I think you started off with word of mouth marketing, just with the people that you know, and then I think networking is something that we all should try and do it more, because you find probably your co-founder out there or your team members
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I want to, like, something which caught my eye was, initially when I introduced you as well. So I mentioned that you provide therapy in 11 Indian languages. So how did that
Yes.
happen? I mean, was this something on your mind, or how did this happen?
Man, I just have very talented teammates.
Okay.
And I really enjoy the fact that like my teammates come from such varied backgrounds, such different religions, and they bring their own cultural baggage along with them, which is very useful in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I know my Marwadi clients prefer to go to my Marwadi psychologist.
Yeah.
They're like, she gets me. I'm like, that's true
Right.
because we're culturally more
Mm-hmm.
connected to somebody who understands the reality that we come from.
Right.
And it's not easy to strip away that reality and be like, no, we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. We're all different. And yet we all can be together. So 11 languages just happened because each of us are very proficient in our own mother tongues. All of us know Hindi, English, and a few of us, like we do Bengali, we do Marwari, we do Tamil. So I think it's just the skill sets that each of the therapists bring to the table. And I found that very valuable during 2 months when we ran this experiment called Brief Relief during the COVID crisis,
Mm-hmm.
where we had a 14-hour, and then which became a 24-hour, but 14-hour helpline for people to just call up and get some brief relief. And so many people came by to volunteer. Some of our clients came to volunteer to listen to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to cover so many more languages that way, because so many people reached out.
Mm. It's beautiful. I mean, lovely. I think you've just made use of the skill sets of your colleagues, and it's beautiful because I think uh, I'm not sure. Probably it's because of our Indian culture as well. Because I for one, I think even you would agree. But because being in Bangalore or in South India, I think especially Bangalore, since it's cosmopolitan, we get to easily talk in like 4 to 5 languages, right? So I think it's also to do with our Indian culture where we just ease into a language and we know how to communicate. So that's the beauty of it. But
Yeah.
it's so lovely that you've brought it onto this platform and reaching out to more people. That's really wonderful. One other thing which I would also like to ask you is about the chatbots. I think you
Hmm.
did try out that as well. So could you elaborate more on that?
I think this is a dream for my co-founder as well as the tech team.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very vibrant tech team, and they've been really working hard to build a chatbot.
Mm-hmm.
I must say that a lot of the work that happens at Heartitout happens through all of our psychology interns. We get 25 new interns every month who come by
Wow.
and put all of their valuable resources into
Mm-hmm.
this, their learnings, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So about 12 of them are sitting together to build a chatbot that can probably clarify questions.
Mm-hmm.
People have a lot of questions before they even come to therapy, right? Like, is this the right therapist for me? Or am I supposed to be choosing therapy, or should I just go like to a marathon
Yeah.
or swimming?
Yeah.
Or even things like what's happening with me? Like, is this something my parent needs help with?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many questions, and I find it very interesting because, like, if you ask a 6-year-old, "Do you know what is fever?" They'll tell you. They'll be like, "Oh, there is hot here," and you'll feel like tired. But the
Yes.
same 6-year-old is just as susceptible to
Mm.
anxiety, just as susceptible to depression. But even the parent won't be able to say what are the three important symptoms or signs to look out for.
Right.
Right? That's how
Right.
much we have stigmatized mental illness, and we've
Mm.
decided that it doesn't exist. And because it doesn't exist, then we don't know anything about it. But it's
Yes.
important that we clarify to people that, hey, this is toxic, this is not healthy behavior.
Correct.
So I think the chatbot is really a bridge for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and both me and my co-founder are huge technology enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
We lap up every new technology that comes up. So I think it really helps us to do so.
Wonderful, wonderful. Staying. I think in tune with the technology these days. I think that's really good. All right. So apart from providing therapeutic services in areas of anxiety, depression, mood, and eating disorders, grief, sexuality, trauma, and psychotic disorders, I think one thing which which actually caught my eye was you are dedicated to the creation of safe and inclusive spaces to enable people to explore their authentic selves. I was just I was just so very fascinated by exploring your authentic self. So could you please elaborate on that?
I'm a jammer, and by
Mm-hmm.
jammer, I mean we're a bunch of people around the world who come
Mm-hmm.
together to explore ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You can check out India Youth Jam or Yes World, which organizes a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I attended my jam a few years ago, and my first realization was I am so disconnected from the people that are around me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't understand them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always connected to them on Facebook and Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what struggles they're going through. I don't know what pains they're going through, including the people I live with, or and
Right.
like my mom and my dad. And I don't know their reality so much because I'm so caught up in productivity, in achieving, in success, that I forget all of these little things that matter: relationships, being vulnerable, being truthful, being authentic,
Yeah.
uh, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we first started Hard It Out, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring from my jam family here,
Right.
to be real and authentic and have a space to just be ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to see what does it mean to be ourselves, because so often we have to put so many masks, so many roles, so many hats.
Yeah.
What does it mean for us to just become ourselves and to be comfortable becoming ourselves? So when people ask me, is therapy only when I'm sick or only when I'm feeling not good enough, I have to tell them that no, not really. It's also for when you're feeling not real, when you're feeling disconnected, when you're feeling like this is not who you are, but you want to discover who you are,
Right.
you can still come to therapy.
Right. I mean, that's so beautifully said. So I want to get this straight. So just like we have a personal fitness trainer who helps with the
Yeah,
physical well-being, we can also have
yeah,
a therapist who helps with our mental well-being, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one thing we all probably overlook, or probably we ignore, that as you said, with the kids, when you ask them, okay, what do you know about fever, or do you think you have fever, so he tells you everything. But yes, I mean, when it comes to mental well-being, we actually do not know. I think that's more so to do with, we don't know ourselves. So I think that's where we need to like tap into, and it's so beautiful
Yeah.
that you've created this space with Heartitout, and really lovely. Okay, great. I just want to go back a bit. All right. So, from your other roles, like as you mentioned, as an actor, designer, director, how do you incorporate a space of inclusion, diversity, and compassion into therapy? And are they the key ingredients for mental health?
Whoa, I don't know. um, I don't know if they're the key ingredients for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion driven work is what I'm always heading
Mm-hmm.
towards. Um, but I must say, as a young adolescent, I wasn't always so compassionate. I have been rude. I have been uh, mean. I have passed remarks about people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a growing adult, what I've realized is the amount of compassion I sometimes have for others is not what I have for myself.
Oh yeah.
Like my friend is allowed to make
Yeah.
mistakes, not me.
Yeah.
My partner is allowed to go back and forth because of their anxiety, not me.
Mm.
So that double standard, I think, really messes with our mental health. Um, and it's something that I have learned from my other roles as an artist, as an actor,
Mm-hmm.
especially in theater. Like when we all sit down, we sit down in a circle, right? And the circle implies that we're all equal,
Right.
and it implies that we are all
Mm-hmm.
um, in our miseries, in our imperfections, in our difficulties, equal.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Like therapy is an equal power space between the therapist and the client. It is not that I know more than the client or they know less.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that we're working together to navigate this difficult part of life.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So could you tell us more on the buddy circle which you actually offer? What is it about? I know it's a part of what you were
So,
saying, and also something to do
yeah,
with inclusion. So I want you to
yeah.
elaborate more on what is buddy circle.
In psychological research, we have found that people most often respond to peer support
Mm-hmm.
way strongerly than they respond to an authority figure telling them what to do,
Right.
like all of us, right? Like we would rather listen to our friends than to our teachers, and that has continued into adulthood as well. So, Buddy Circle started out as a way in which we can create a community of people
Mm-hmm.
who can support each other and come to each other's needs, because they're all struggling with the same issue.
Mm.
If you see in the Western world, we have Alcoholics Anonymous,
Right.
right, which came from the church, which
Mm-hmm.
is still a peer support group. Or like a group of people like NAMI, which is National Alliance for People with Mental Illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a group of people who came together to support each other deal with something,
Mm-hmm.
or support each other get through something
Right.
that they may not have been able to get through alone by themselves. So Buddy Circle is currently being made into a community
Mm-hmm.
where we will have sharing circles and listening circles. We also have focus group workshops where a psychologist will help you tackle one little thing. Like I think this week we're doing how do I make peace with my own anxiety,
Right.
and how do I recognize that I have it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, very little things like this, and help a group come together to discuss this, to work on it, because all of us are struggling with the same thing. And most people find a lot of strength in that, in the fact that there is somebody else going through the same ish thing that I'm going through,
Mm-hmm.
and we can be a support to each other rather than struggling alone.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean that's beautiful. There's also one thing which I noticed. I know you offer individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and also LGBTQI community. I mean the therapy. And one other thing which which actually piqued my interest was the co-founder therapy. I think this is something
Yeah.
new which I've just come across. So could you tell us more about that? And how did this come into the therapy?
Like one of the second biggest reasons why most entrepreneurial ventures fail is because the co-founders aren't aligned to each other. They
Right.
either aren't aligned to each other because they have different visions for
Mm,
their venture,
right.
or because they're having a lot of trouble with like communication with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, First biggest is obviously money, but this is definitely the second biggest problem. And as a serial entrepreneur who had my own ups and downs with my co-founders, and
Mhm,
who's had to learn from it
mhm.
and who's grown from it, I felt like it would have been so much more nicer, like if we had like relationship counseling between all of our like co-founders, so we
Yeah.
understood where everybody else is at, and what each of us were doing, why each of us were upset or not upset, or present or not present,
Yes.
instead of just screaming and yelling at each other, going, "You didn't do this job."
I know.
You don't take responsibility. So I think co-founder therapy is for me a version of relationship counseling
Mhm.
that we do with co-founders.
I think that's wonderful because I know there are many,
Mhm.
startup businesses who are probably going through this, where
Yeah,
they don't have the one vision. I think for their
yeah,
business, and I
yeah.
think yes. I mean, thanks to you, I think we do also have the co-founder therapy. I think for all the entrepreneurs out there or who are into a team and a startup, and if you're having not so good equations with your co-founder or your team members, I think this is something which you should try out. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So moving on, my next question is on the situation that we're in currently with respect to the pandemic. So do you think mental health pandemic is a reality already? And my follow up question to that is, do you think suicides will be on the rise? What can we do as fellow human beings, as community, or as a society? So, what do you think?
We are in the middle of a mental health pandemic. It's
Mm-hmm.
already an emergency. We're in critical state. It's terrible. It was very heartbreaking for me to know that more people um, died by suicide in Japan in October
Mm-hmm.
than they died by the pandemic,
Oh.
the COVID pandemic. It was so heartbreaking to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think as individuals, we owe it to ourselves and the few people in and around our circle to be very aware of where they are emotionally, to
Right.
ask them as often as possible, where are you at?
Mm.
Are you feeling okay? And if somebody's and the how are you that we offer to each other, to try and really make it a genuine how are you today, rather than how are you, I'm feeling good, how are you, I'm feeling good, this is great, okay, let's get on to the real part of the job.
Yeah.
The how are you is the real part of the job.
Mm.
Is to say, how was your Diwali? Does crackers set off your anxiety? Were you distressed? Are you hurt? Are you okay?
Mm.
If your friend hasn't called you up in 2 months, to really pick up the phone and be like, where are you? Are you freaking out?
Right.
How can I support you? As individuals, I really think we owe the people around us first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, as systems and as entrepreneurs, and I would say we owe so much to getting to know our employees' mental health, and to create systems where they can come talk to you about stuff that's working or not working with them. Um,
Yes.
I'm so proud that at Heartitout, anybody is welcome to take a break at any point of time, and we have an open vacation policy.
Wow.
Um, when you're ready, you can come back to work,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's so not okay to force people to perform, especially in mental health, when they have to be present to other people's pains and difficulties, and
Mm-hmm.
to be like, ignore your own.
Yeah.
No, we cannot. Systems need to really, really see what am I doing to better the mental health of my employee or of the people that work with me.
Yeah.
And obviously, as activists, I think all of us have got to be super political and push so much for reform, policy reform in the government level. Yesterday, somebody sent me an Instagram reel forward, and I found out that the entirety of investment in mental health in India is 50 crores, and the person said it costs more than that to buy a bungalow in Bombay.
Yeah.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that's true. So it's really about reconsidering, as venture capitalists, where are we putting our money? As policy makers, what are we doing for mental health?
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I think each of us have the power to make a difference.
Right. I mean, so rightly said. Thank you for that. I think we all need to, probably take this as priority. I think from wherever that we are, be it entrepreneurs or just family members, I think we need to show that love, or at least that concern that yes, we are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would also like you to talk about a bit about. One thing is about setting boundaries. So when you
Mhm.
say that you need to be there for your family members or friends who are probably going through anxiety or depression, uh, so how do you set boundaries? Because probably at times we might also be going through something, or how do you know that should I help out that person and go all the way, or should I set a boundary somewhere and probably take care of myself first before I can do it for others? So how does one know about it? uh, so that's one question, and I would also like you to talk about gift a session, I think probably at the later part of it. So yeah, but this is the main question that I
Sure.
have.
It's lovely. They're both connected.
Mm,
Um, you don't know is the answer. Short
right.
answer, you don't know. The
Mm-hmm.
long answer is we spend a lot of time to get to know ourselves and get to know what can we offer and what can we not.
Yes.
Like, it's important to know that right now I'm struggling and I cannot offer um, unstopping listening to my friend. I cannot. Right now, this is something that's triggering for me, and it's not okay for me to like let my friend dump all of their emotional problems on me, or let my family member dump everything on me, because I'm not ready. So first, I think, is awareness of the self.
Mm-hmm.
What can I offer and what can I not offer?
Right.
Second is definitely verbally, vocally asking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to ask a friend, what do you need from me? And if your friend says, I don't know, they don't know. That's okay. You don't have to go above and beyond, and just be with them until they find out. Just be
Right.
there. And let's say they do know and they say, hey, I'd love for you to check up on me once a day.
Ah.
Check with yourself, is that a possibility? If it is, do it. If it's not, be like, hey, once a day is not going to happen for me. Can I do once a week?
Right.
So,
Yes.
to really be open with what you can offer and what you can't, to
Mm-hmm.
really be aware of how much is in your capacity and how much is not, and to not think of yourself as Superman. We are not Superman. We
Yes.
cannot save everybody. That is why there are professionals. So we do this as on a
Right.
professional daily basis. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot do this for our friends, which is a very important distinction. Which is why we started the Help a Friend campaign. We started that on Friendship Day last year. It's
Okay.
been a huge success.
Hmm.
We asked people to gift their friends who needed a session, right? At just
Wow.
a conversation with a therapist. And we never thought so many friends were looking forward to taking care of their friends. We were so
Yes.
moved by it.
Mm.
Um, and it's important to realize that there are some things that I can help a friend with, and there are some things I can't. If my
Mhm.
friend is harming themselves, I
Mhm.
can tell my friend that, hey, I understand your pain,
Mhm.
but I cannot work with them on self harm. That's something that a professional can do. I can tell them, I will come with you to therapy and sit outside while you talk.
Yes. Yes. So just small gestures. I think that would go a long way.
Small gestures,
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
gestures.
Yes, lovely, lovely. And thanks for letting us know about gifting session. I think for all those friends who want to help out their friends who are probably in anxiety or depression, please make use of this, gift session. All right.
Yeah, or friends who are not listening to you and doing dumb things over and over again. They don't need to have anxiety or depression for you to send them to therapy. Just send
Yes,
them to therapy.
yes, I know. Lovely. Okay. Okay. I'm moving to the next session, which mainly talks about social media.
Yeah.
All right. So we as adults and also teenagers now, obviously, because considering the situation, I mean, considering the generation and the technological advances, so we are addicted to social media. So how can we overcome this? And because there's always a constant need for appreciation, attention that we seek. I mean, that's obviously on social media. So how can we overcome this, or how do we do it mindfully?
Hmm. I must say though that the most people who are susceptible to social media are not the youngsters, but the people between the age groups of 40 and 60.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's
Yes,
some news for
because
me. All right.
because
Huh.
for a lot of us between the ages of, like, let's say 15 and 25, we've
Mm,
grown up with the internet. The internet was available when we were children. I had access to internet in fifth grade. My parents did not. So
mm,
for them,
mhm.
WhatsApp is its own world, and Facebook is its own world, and they live there constantly. I find that most parents are unable to provide any more time to their children because they're lost in their phones.
Right.
And I feel that the youngsters have been able to more mindfully use technology and social media than the elders. Um, because the youngsters have access to so many things. Like, they will choose to listen to a mental health podcast over watching a serial that continues to perpetrate toxic values.
Yes.
But
Yes.
somebody who is older neither has access to that, nor have they been told how to navigate the internet. So
Mm,
they are more susceptible to propaganda, more susceptible to toxicity continuing, more susceptible to being hooked
mm.
than the youngsters. Because youngsters have almost every influencer they follow on social media at one point would have said, put down your phone and, like, go enjoy nature.
Right.
Right? No serial on Netflix has ever said that.
Yes.
Right? So I would say, especially uh, to the youngsters, I would say, be aware of why you are using social media. Is
Mm-hmm.
it to compare, or is it to grow? Is it to put out your work? Is it to get more work?
Mm-hmm.
What is the role of social media in your life? Be very aware of that and really use technology. Like, I don't think I'd live without apps like Your Hour or MySpace, which will tell me how much time I spent on what.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and to limit ourselves by doing a lot of self regulation would be one thing. The
Mm.
other important part to this is, if not for social media, then what is a way to connect?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So, like, youngsters will ask me this question. Like, my best friend is in America or in the UK, and I'm in India. And this is the only way I will connect with them. Snapchat streak is the new best friends that I have.
Yes.
So it's very,
Yes.
I think, naive of us to just demonize social media and say we're addicted, so it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. We need to find ways of using it well.
Right. Right. So we would just need to find it's not making use of us, but we making use of it
Use of
effectively.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I just have a follow up question to that. With respect to social media, yes, I mean you did say about it, but there are other things. I mean, pertaining to okay, this is just a realization which I had. Just the last few years. I've just been contemplating a lot of stuff, and one thing which just hit me was with physical, I mean with food that we eat, you actually know what is junk and what is actually healthy for you.
Mm.
And but with respect to what you watch on TV, it could be some political series which is going on the news channels forever, or it could be violent movies, or certain disturbing situations which is happening in the country. So we are, it's, I mean, considering the media now, and especially the media channels, the news on TV, it's they have their own saga of their own because it goes endlessly.
Yeah.
And so is with, probably with respect to violent movies. So how do we how do we gauge, what we have to watch, or how do we stop ourselves? Because as food, we know what is what, we know which is healthy, which is junk, we actually consciously know what it is. But yeah, even otherwise we do eat junk. But then with respect to watching, or with respect to watching a movie probably which actually influences you in some way, or how do you go about stopping it? How do we do that? Because I find it really, probably, I think I consciously need to sit, okay, this is I'm watching about this but not about that, or how do you do that?
I don't know if, like, I think it's a misnomer, man. I don't think violence influences violence at all.
Okay. All right.
Not at all. I will take that back though.
Uh-huh.
There is a possibility that sometimes watching violence can make us violent,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's definitely not true at all that violent games and violent movies will make people who watch them violent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No way.
Okay.
Um, I do think that watching it out of context might
Mm.
be influential,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it would make us violent. I think violence already exists in the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is enough domestic abuse, there is enough people calling their children names, there is enough children meeting out physical abuse to people
Mm-hmm.
that already exists whether there is media or not.
Okay.
Like, especially this argument is done a lot with respect to gaming, and I find that such a strange argument because gaming is one of the things that is super super helpful to mental health. Like, I
Oh.
really want to be able to say that, like Legend of Zelda is really really going to make life better for people who play it. There is much better connection.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and by just banning violence, we are not actually reducing the violence that is there in everyday life. But if I
Mm-hmm.
banned Mirzapur from happening in Netflix, that doesn't mean that the violence of everyday life has changed. It hasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would like to then ask people, what does this violence do to you? How often do you see violence in your own world, and what are you doing about that?
Right.
Movies are just a representation of what is happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing about the 600 people that are 600 little children that are being trafficked every day?
Right.
What, like, that's violent.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, I think, like, complaining about things like violent movies or violent games takes away from the real violence that exists in
Mm.
society.
Mm.
Like, do we know if our neighbor beats their partner?
Yeah.
We don't.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so rightly said. I think yeah, probably we need to relook into this and figure out what we
Yeah.
can do. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. I also have this particular thing, a question on psychosomatic issues, because we feel that okay, there could be something. It could be probably something as disturbed us mentally, and stressing us out. For a while, it could be a while, but then it actually starts reflecting onto us physically. It could be like ailments like backache or frequent headaches or shoulder pain. Well, do correct me if I'm wrong. So I mean, if it is so, then how do we know that it's something to do with my mental health, which is not going good? That is why it's reflecting on my physical health. So how do we make that distinction of the physical pain and the if it is related to the mental aspect, and what can we do, and what are the steps that we need to take?
It's so, I find it I'm a bit angry right now, but I find it very strange that we've put the onus on people to find out about themselves rather than medical professionals having to tell
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Ideally, your GP is supposed to tell you if you're getting too much dandruff over and over and over again. You probably, like, there's something else there,
Yeah,
or like if you're having skin hives, or if your um, genitals are having trouble, then there's probably something beyond the fact that I can help over and over again, especially
right.
backaches and shoulder aches and stuff that you mentioned, hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of this is psychosomatic. Stomach ache. How many times have we had exam stomach aches without anybody telling us that this could be anxiety?
Right.
And if one in four of us have anxiety, that means that one in four of us have had exam stomachache at one point and gone and sat on the loo and pooped
Right.
about a lot.
Yes.
So I think that the responsibility should ideally lie with medical professionals to
Mm-hmm.
train, to tell the people who go up to them, be like, hey, I also think that you need to go see a mental health professional.
Right.
Maybe you're stressed at work, maybe there's something, maybe you're just a new dad and you don't know how to deal with like having a baby.
Yeah.
Anything can be stressful, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it's really important that medical professionals do it. But if they didn't, Google is our best friend, and it's important that we go find
Yeah.
out a little bit about and Google a little bit about why am I losing all of my hair, and if one of the things says stress could be a reason, to not just be like, oh, let's get unstressed, or like let's go drink a few bottles of alcohol. Alcoholism has been so normalized, to deal with. Like,
Yeah.
you have a breakup, go drink with your friends. You are stressed at work, go drink with your friends. Why can't it be
Mhm.
you're stressed at work, so call up my therapist?
Yeah,
Or
I
I'm
know.
stressed at work, so I'll go to Wonderland, slide on the slides a little bit.
Yes, right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I find it very nice though that you brought up like psychosomatic work. Most people don't ask about it, or don't think it's important to recognize that my body is giving me signs that my mind is not okay. Um, and a lot of like traditional medicine, like Ayurveda and Siddha, came from that. Like, Siddha definitely believes that your food and your diet intake can change your mental atmosphere.
yes,
So
yes, absolutely. I mean, I asked this question because this is something which I have explored. I mean, so I have, started with yoga and meditation. It's been like
yeah,
3 years now, and
yeah,
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and so I know what I'm eating and what I'm watching, and it's really good to know about yourself as to how you're behaving, because if something is not right, because it's not just the way you sit, because of course it's a sedentary thing, because I blog, I write, and also talk to you. I like other entrepreneurs, but then
yeah.
this is something which came to me like, hey, you know what, I'm having this lower backache, or the shoulder pain, but why? And this went on to I did, some. There was another psychologist friend of mine who told me, like, this is, I think, probably something to do with your, probably something on your mind, and probably you're stuck there, or that's why it is. And that took me, oh yeah. I mean, as soon as she said that, and it went on like, oh yes, I recall a lot of things. I retrospected a bit as to what could it be, and I was like, yes. I mean, it's so simple,
Yeah,
and I was just worrying. Okay, maybe I should go go to an orthopedic, or for probably check out what's
yeah,
happening with my back, or what is it. But it's
yeah,
actually that. I mean, and but it's so beautiful. I mean, I really love. As I've always been saying, I think since we connected, that it's just beautiful what you're doing out, and the main aspect being to explore ourselves. I think that's where
yeah.
it lies. I think that's where it is.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you bring up yoga and meditation. My parents are huge proponents of meditation as well. They probably never come to therapy,
Mm.
but they would definitely never miss a day of meditation. They
Yeah.
practice heartfulness. And it's so interesting how much their lives have changed. They're saying that they're able to slow down more,
Mm.
be more mindful of what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're eating.
Right.
And I don't think that there is one way to go to Rome. Therapy is definitely a useful way. Because I know a lot about it, I would probably be a bigger proponent of it.
Mm.
But meditation, yoga are just as good enough ways. Marathons are just as good enough for you to root and center yourself and find some grounding.
Right. But it's all about finding out what you love to do, what you enjoy to do, and just go with it, right? I
Yeah,
think that's where you get to explore yourself.
yeah, I agree.
Right. Wonderful. Okay. I will get back to this question much later. But before that, I just want to finish up with social media. Uh,
Mm,
so we as businesses, I mean, as entrepreneurs, we also use social media. I mean, of course, it's very relevant for any virtual business today. I want you to tell me, how is it? I mean, I know being in the counseling space and in the therapeutic services space, uh, it's always very easy to do a face to face, a talk or a session. But I know, with respect to the pandemic, I mean, of course, many companies strategize how they work, and they've gone virtual or online. So how is it for you? I mean, considering counseling and therapy, it's a one-on-one, like you connect to the person, and it more so happens naturally when you are face to face with the person, like physically present. And how is it now, or was this already, I mean, as part of Heartitout, were you already doing an online session? So could you elaborate on that, and also let us know how you've been effectively using social media for your business?
got that. We were always online.
Mhm. Okay.
Since the first day, we've been online. We've been available both online and offline. So
Hmm.
it really supported us during the pandemic because there wasn't much transitioning to do,
Right.
um, because we already had the whole thing set up. We do have a
Mm.
lot of clients who visit us from other parts of the country, or who stay in other parts of the country who've been recommended here, things like that.
Right.
So we were
Hmm.
always online, so it supported us. Social media is something that we started very, very late. About 2 years into our company, we started doing online marketing or social media.
Right.
For 2 years, we just ran on word of mouth. We had a lot of clients who thought that our work was good enough that they would bring their friends, their families. I have one client who's recommended 19 people here. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm like, now I know everybody and everything in your life. So it's very interesting. So I feel like when we provide value as entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
people will come. So I think as entrepreneurs, we've really, really got to be very sure of the quality of work that we do,
Hmm.
and be very, very sure that our target is providing great value to the people that reach out to us.
Right.
I'm going to shift from client to customer every now and then,
Yes.
because as a psychologist, they're my clients, but as a business person, they're customers or users.
Right.
Um, for users of social media, and this is something I'm just learning as well, it's important that we go and learn about digital marketing a little bit. It's important
Mm.
that we not just listen to the digital marketing gurus, but to also learn from the data that comes back from us. Like, I might want to do Heart It Out for um, men between the ages of 40 and 45, but my social media engagement or the people that reach out to me most are women between the ages of 20 and 27.
Right.
So it's very important that my target demographic and my target audience is just as influenced by who's reaching out to me as much as who do I want to reach out to, and have a nice balance between the two. So I would say
Right.
social media marketing is not something that one can do by oneself. If I was a solopreneur, I don't know how I would be able to manage all of these things. I'd
Right.
probably like give it up. But the fact that I have a wonderful team who is willing to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and they come up with their own ideas every month, they decide that they want to do something different. I think it's really helped everybody have a sense of ownership of what is their idea of mental health, what are the kind of people who they want to reach out to, how do they want to reach out to them. So now they make me do reels on Instagram, and I've never done something like this before, right? And I'm so like awkward about it, but then like it's okay, you'll get there. You'll learn something. I'm doing podcasts. This is a wonderful way of getting other people on board your dream, to show them what you're all about.
Right.
And I think the more authentic we are as entrepreneurs, the more people will connect to us.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, beautifully said. And I would also like to, tell the listeners that you have to check out Heartitout's Facebook page, because I found it very interesting. Because there are tips, which tell you how do you go about, what kind of food that you need to eat, or it could be something to do with stress busters or affirmations, and how do you beat anxiety. I think it's so beautifully done. I just enjoy the page. I think if you want to check it out, please do go and check out Heart It Out's Facebook page. And thank you, Nitya. I mean, thanks for your team for putting that out. I think it's just beautiful. It's just lovely, and it just caught my eye, and I'm just all drooling over it. Thank you for
Yay!
that.
Thank you, team.
Yes. All right. So moving on. Okay, so you being a social entrepreneur, you are driving a change and spreading awareness on mental well-being and health. So, do you think you need more hands? By more hands, I mean psychologists or the government or other entrepreneurs who could complement to drive the mission of yours.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody's welcome. Like they just yesterday somebody applied with us, and they said they wanted to do a law internship with us. We were like, yeah, come on, let's do this.
Wow.
We have so many people whose laws are whose legal rights have been thwarted. So like I'd love for you to come help. So I think everybody has a space in contributing to mental health and making it more accessible to the people,
Mm-hmm.
even if it is like designers can help get the message out in more visual ways, lawyers can help bridge the gap between the judiciary and mental health, corporates, I cannot tell you how much engineers I rely on for them to be able to build us more functioning websites, better softwares that will help us reach out to people. Can you believe that like we still use fax machines in hospitals when we have the cloud, that we I'm
Right.
like, we have the cloud. So we're not very advanced technologically in the health space, which is definitely because like our health budget is abysmally low,
Right.
very very bad.
Yeah.
So I think even to advise the government on like how do we do this, what sort of things work,
Mm-hmm.
create little pilot programs, show this to the government, be like, hey, I'd like to do this in 50 other villages.
Yeah.
I think there's so much work to do, and there are so many organizations doing such great work. Like just volunteering 2 or 3 hours of our time with those organizations, like Atma Shakti or Richmond Fellowship Society, any of these organizations can really further their impact.
Right.
We don't all need to become entrepreneurs,
Yes.
but we can collaborate and support each other's ventures.
Lovely. And I just hope and I pray that you get more people to get this mission of yours going and moving forward. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I think mental health and mental well-being is something that all of us need to prioritize and look. I mean, just as individuals, of course, for a start, and in whatever way that we can go ahead and help this mission of yours, I think we should all get together and collaborate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I just have two more questions. All right. So before we get on to some another, just a short, quick, interesting session. Yeah. So I want to get back to where we were. I know where I was talking about yoga and meditation, and you were also talking about these aspects. So I, for one, I just want to talk about from my perspective, because yoga and meditation has helped me to explore myself, which I had not done earlier, and it helped me to realize a lot of things, very very basic, necessary things, which I missed, in my education. So I want to know. Is it something that we could do? I know we have therapists who can help us out with this, but I just want you to take two steps back. uh, can we actually do something at the very grassroots level, like, let's say, the schools? I mean, can there be some mental well-being initiatives right from the schools, because that's where we get to learn more about ourselves. I know we do have the PT, and the physical education and all of that. uh, and of course we do have extracurriculars, I know, I don't deny that. But somewhere down the line, I think we miss, or we overlook mental health, mental well-being. So is there something that can be done right from the school? I mean, something which could be aligned to the education system that we have currently. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Or how do you think that, I mean, is there a possibility that we could do something with start from that very grassroots level? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's amazing as an idea. Of course, we should start there. That is where we all begin institutionalizing ourselves. So I guess it is where we should begin. The government has done a lot actually.
Mm-hmm.
Every CBSE school, it's compulsory in India to have a school psychologist.
Right.
um,
Mm-hmm.
Currently. And there's definitely a lot of like certification that goes on. Like the government now allows for disability certificates to be accepted by schools and provide uh, different education modules as well. There is inclusive schools where people are asking if children with special needs can also come and be part of mainstream schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, people are not separated and segregated, but even the neurotypical children get to understand the neurodivergent children and be like, oh, this is what living with autism is like. This is what living with Asperger's is like. This is what living with mental intellectual disabilities are like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the smallest institution we are first part of is a family first, not school.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think it's really important that we do this with families, and that families don't ridicule their children for going out and seeking support, or
Mm-hmm.
they make it normalized that it's okay to go and seek therapy from someone. Like recently, my friend Chaitanya, he's a wonderful director in the Kannada film industry, just called up and said, "Hey, my daughter finished school. What kind of career counseling can I offer her to take? Can I offer to take
Right.
her to?" And I found it
Yeah.
so nice. Like a parent is really invested in the care of their child
Yeah.
and is looking to like support their child in as many ways as possible, and recognizing that the parent cannot be the be all and end all of solutions for their child, and there are other people for it. In terms of like what can we do for ourselves in the grassroots, or in when I think when you mean grassroots, you also mean like with our own individual selves, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
uh, the number one thing that guarantees great mental health is a routine. So I think to really push ourselves to have
Mm-hmm.
a routine for sleep, a routine for food, it's something that religion really incorporated into our existences. Like Islam has your 5 time uh,
Prayer.
prayer, etc.
Yeah.
So like it and Sunday schools for the Christians. So I
Correct.
think it's really important that we look to these cultural symbols
Yes.
to help us get by, even if we're atheist or agnostic, to look to what systems are already in place to help us have great mental health. And especially during the pandemic, when our work life balance is just
Yeah.
whew, kicked off, it's really important that we like get back to our roots, ask ourselves, is this working well for me? Is
Hmm.
this supportive for me? If it's not, why am I still doing it?
Right. Absolutely. Yes, I mean, well said. I would also like you to elaborate on this particular aspect. Uh, I mean, of course, talking about the Western psychotherapy, I think there are different schools of psychotherapy. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so that started out with respect to the Freud's, where he talks about more to do with the situation or your growing up years, and it relates to all of that. And of course, I think consequently there were a few other schools of therapy. So how has the trend been, and do we follow that? What do we follow here in India per se? I mean, and I would also like you to talk about logotherapy, I think, which is more to do with the spiritual aspects. I think I spoke about yoga and meditation. And do you think India, being culturally, culturally sound with many, of course, we did talk about religions, but moving on to the spiritual aspect of it, where one seeks to understand what is oneself, or exploring oneself about what you all are, is that what we are, or what do you have to say? Because moving from Western psychotherapy, do we ape the school of thought from the Westerners, or do we in India have something aligned with respect to the culture we have? Yes, one is of course religions, that where it all started, but then I would also like to, I mean, if there's anything related to spirituality, which is what we're seeking with respect to exploring oneself. I would like to know your thoughts on this.
Hmm. In terms of how does Western psychotherapy manifest in India, I think largely we still continue to ape the West.
Mm.
We still
Okay.
continue to be like, okay, it's the same stuff that works here as well. But culturally, we're so different. Like we're a collectivist society. The West is not. And it's also important. Recently, I think I read an article about how westernized we are. Like, if I say imagine New York,
Mhm.
whether you've been there or not, you can tell me about the New York. You can tell me about New York Mets. We have no idea about it, but we can tell about this. But we're
Yes.
not so orientalized.
Hmm.
Nobody taught us about the cultures of Myanmar, cultures of Singapore, Thailand, cultures of Japan,
Mm.
and how do they deal with mental health. China, like we only know like, oh no, China, but there's there's so much
Yeah.
more to it than just that. Like the Oriental cultures have really a large and a long, deep history with mental health than the Western cultures do.
Mm.
And a lot of these Western psychologists have come to India, before they came up with their own theories and
Right.
gone back with it.
Yes.
Homi J. Baba, I think Homi Baba had a long correspondence with Sigmund Freud during their time.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it was Homi Baba, I think.
All right.
But somebody did, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's very important for us to realize that the cultural reality of the place that we live in really informs our mental health as well.
Hmm.
Just 300, 400 years ago, we were a monarchy for the longest time,
Yeah.
right? Suddenly, having been a democracy
Mm.
really means that people are also calibrating what does their opinion mean, how often does their opinion have value, blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Yes.
So I think that it is important for us to go back to our own roots, see what we can take back from there,
Hmm.
be very aware of how much colonization and colonial thoughts have ruined is a very strong word, have uh, influenced
Influenced.
how
Yes.
we are as people.
Yeah.
Like up just a few years before the British came in, we were very tolerant of like queer ideologies.
Mm.
We have them as part of our mythologies. Like nobody ever questions Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just
Right.
okay with it. Nobody ever says, "Oh, like Bhishma decided to be a bachelor." We're cool with it. Today, if I tell my mother I don't want to get married, they're like, "What? You're doing the biggest crime of your life."
I
But
know.
it was okay for a lot of like our previous generation to do what they wanted to do, and India was a very very tolerant place.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
a new religion was born here.
Yeah.
Buddhism was born here. Jainism was born here.
Right.
So I bet we were tolerant enough to allow for different voices to
Correct.
speak themselves. So it's really important for us to go back and see, okay, how much of our hatred, intolerance, how
Mhm.
much of our fascination and romanticization of the Western world comes from colonization and doesn't actually come from who we are.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Like with respect to therapy, so what do we follow? I mean, is it somewhere aligned to the Western psychotherapy, or do we align it to, something like exploring ourselves? I mean, for me, I can relate to logotherapy because that is more about exploring myself. What do I do? What do I like? Or to know more about myself. So, as a therapist, I mean, as a counselor, what do you feel like? As I mean, with respect to where Heartitout is, uh, so is it with respect to the Indian philosophy that you're following, or what is it all about?
I think personally, I've been had the privilege of studying under professors like Sridhar Murthy sir and Dharitri ma'am,
Hmm.
who are brilliant psychologists of their own accord, who propagated a lot of like incorporating spirituality, incorporating Indian philosophy
Right.
into therapy.
Right.
So I've been blessed enough to bring all of that into work. I feel like I constantly allow and prod my other psychologists and colleagues who work with us here at Heartitout also to explore their own realities,
Right.
what influences they'd like to bring in, what cultural influences would they like to bring in.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't follow a specific type of therapy like logotherapy or
Right.
psychoanalysis.
Right.
Most of us in India follow very eclectic styles. The preference is definitely CBT and evidence-based
Hmm.
therapies a lot recently
All right.
because people want solutions. They want solution-driven work, even
Yes.
at therapy.
Yes.
But there are very, very beautiful psychoanalysts, logotherapists, hypnotherapists. The problem is how little research there is in the cultural context. Like, there isn't enough research to prove that this is a much better therapy than this therapy to follow with Indians.
Right.
Nobody's done enough research. There isn't enough funding for research.
Right.
So, a lot of these systemic issues influence whether we can actually practice a certain kind of therapy or not.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I must say that like Nimhan's PGI in Amritsar, they're like pioneers and doing so much work in the field of mental health that for a lot of us there is hope to learn from and bring in too many types of therapy and mix them
Yes.
to form something that is good for our client, not just great on paper.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. I think, taking what our culture has to offer and blending it to the needs of the client. I think that's so beautifully said. And yeah, thank you for that. I would want to know, what would you like to say to students of psychology? If they are want to pursue a career in psychology, what do you want to say to them? First, and secondly, what do you want to tell to fellow psychologists, pertaining to mental well-being? And I think, as you mentioned, you need a lot more hands. So what do you want to say to them? I Firstly to the students, and then to your fellow colleagues.
Think it's probably going to be the same to both of
All
them.
right.
Take care of yourselves. You are
Hmm.
just as important. Your mental health is just as important as your clients. You are not your client's savior. You are not their Superman. You are not going to be able to fix their realities for them.
Hmm.
But you are a guide and you are a companion in their journey that they are taking towards their better mental health.
Hmm.
And it is important that every student practitioner also is super aware of their own capacities, their own boundaries, their own limits.
Mhm.
Uh, and burnout is okay. Go take help. Burnout will happen. We will be angry with the system. It is impossible to see people in the system without acknowledging the impact of the system on the people. So there will be anger. Reach out. We're always there to sit together, cry, support each other, hold hands, give up together, and get back up because that's the job.
Beautiful. I'm sure that's just wonderful for you to say all of that, and I'm sure they'll be inspired to go ahead with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, we have spoken about mental well-being. You've spoken to your students and the fellow psychologists, but I want to know, what do you do for your well-being apart from helping others? I know you're in quite I think since the time I've interacted with you, I think the past 10 days, I've seen you like, having back to back sessions, whether be it counseling or you're, giving interviews. I'm really amazed, and impressed by how you handle everything. And you always, I think even when I messaged you or spoke to you, you always had that warm smile. I could really make out when we spoke the first time. So how do you do it? I mean, you are in the mental health space, but I know you need that me time, and I know you need to have that space for yourself where you probably can unwind. So I'm really intrigued to know how you do it all and what do you do for your well-being?
I take my me time unapologetically. I will
Hmm.
piss off everybody. I don't care. It is my time and it is not up for negotiation.
Right.
It was very difficult for the people around me to understand that for a while,
Mhm.
but I think that is the self respect I owe myself. And if I don't give myself that, then I'm not doing good enough service. I'm
Mm.
not being authentic.
Mhm.
I cannot just preach, you're going to have to be authentic and not be authentic myself.
Right,
So
absolutely.
I think my me time is unapologetically mine. I spend a lot of time, I've been trying to learn the ukulele a
Oh.
little bit. So I spend my time doing that. Um, I finally learned how to make my bed. I would never fold my bed sheet. So I think I'm finally doing that. It took me 30 years, but finally getting there. Reconnecting back with my parents a little bit. Teenage was difficult. So I think now is much, much better. Uh, I spend a lot of time painting quietly. I read. But none of that needs to be for the outside world. I do a lot of those things for myself.
Yeah.
I think one of the very liberating things is that everybody has their own time,
Mm-hmm.
and not everybody can be entrepreneurs at 27. Somebody will be entrepreneurs at 73, like Colonel Sanders, and set up KFC.
Yeah.
So I think it's really heartwarming to know that like I go by first principle in design. Now is the right time, and now is whatever I can do is whatever I can do, and if I can't, I can't. Some days it's hard. I would tell the people who are listening that do not compare your hard days with my Instagram highlights. My Instagram highlights did not tell you about the day that I sat outside the door and cried, that I forgot the keys to my own office and let my clients wait outside. It doesn't tell you about those days. But those days are
Yes.
normal and those days happen.
Wonderful. I think more love and power to you, for whatever that you've been doing. Okay, so we just move on to the last section. I know I'm telling you that it won't take much long. I know I won't keep you for a more long time. So it is called as the Preneur Spotlight section. So I'm going to run you through a few questions. It could be on the personal level or the professional level. So you can answer to me in a word or two or a couple of sentences. So it's left up to you. Okay, so do we get started?
Go for it.
Okay. So, what is your ikigai? Ikigai is nothing but the reason for your being. What is that one thing that you would do no matter what is happening around the world? What is that one thing?
Eat.
Lovely. I love
Oh,
that
drink,
answer.
foodie.
All right. Love that answer.
I
Okay.
think I lived
Wonderful. Okay. Any person who inspires you, it can be an artist, a writer, or a poet, or a dancer, or an entrepreneur. I know you've done it all. So, anyone from the space.
Oh man, so many of them, so many of them. I cannot be myself without any of those people. I have stood atop the shoulders of all of these giants.
Mm,
Um, I think a few people that I would love to thank would probably be Shiva. Shiva was my business coach for a while.
mhm.
Um, and Raghava, who's an artist, and has really inspired me to continue to be innovative.
Wonderful. Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. So hypothetically, if you turn out to be the richest person in the world tomorrow, what would you
Yeah.
like to do? Or would you continue to do what you're already doing?
You mean if I become Jeff Bezos tomorrow, I'd really listen to everybody else screaming at me and be like, I'd bring up more parity in the world, man. What am I going to do with that much money? I'm going to die one day. I'll
Yeah.
probably give it all away and continue to do whatever I want to do. Buy
Oh,
myself a little more electronics. I'm a little electronic freak. But aside from that, I'd continue to do what I was doing.
beautiful. I think so rightly said with the work that you're doing. Yes, beautiful. Okay. What is your idea of well-being in business and in personal life?
I think my idea of well-being in business is assertive, strong communication.
All right.
Without that, I think it's very hard to run a business. To be very assertive
Mm-hmm.
and to know what you want
Mm-hmm.
is super important.
Okay.
In my personal life, I think it is to allow for your friends and family and people who love you to
Mm-hmm.
point out that you were being a dumbass and you are wrong, and to learn and grow and to be humble enough to learn and grow over and over again.
Beautiful. Oh my God, that's nice. Okay. What is your definition of success?
Come back home to a cat and have warm food.
I just love it. I actually had this question. I do read about this. Yeah, I think by 2040 you would like to retire with a couple of cats to study memes. I'm so intrigued.
Yes.
Why? What? Why cats and why
I
memes?
I love memes. I think they communicate everything so effectively. I'm a hobbyist meme economist, so I invest in new meme templates and stuff. I'm a huge Redditor.
All right.
But cats, because I I'm a cat person. They have
Okay.
personality, they have a life, they
Whatever
do
they
whatever they
want.
want to do. Yeah. And I think it's the dream life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So one last question for this session with this amazing session. All right. What is one takeaway or some tips or lessons or anything that you want to share with the pruners out there? I think those who are already on this journey, and or for those who are just starting out, who are wanting to be budding entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. So, what do you want to say to them?
Stop waiting for perfect things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They will not happen.
Mm-hmm.
What you have right now is what needs to be put out. And
Right.
then you can version and clean it up and make it better and make it better and make it better. But there is no perfect.
Well said. Amazing. I think that's some wise words coming from you. Amazing. All right. So how can one reach out to you, Nitya?
You can reach out to me at Nithya J underscore Rao on Instagram or Nithya at heartitout.in. I don't generally pick up my phone call, so I don't give my number to anybody. So you can reach out in both of these places and I reply uh, definitely within a week.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll be sure to leave these links in the episode description. And once again, I mean, thank you, Nitya, for being out here. I think it's for me it is, I mean, an amazing learning. I know it's been like close to 1.5 hours, but I thoroughly enjoyed this session. And It's been so much more of a learning for me, and I'm sure to all the entrepreneurs out there, or more so to anyone who's listening to this episode on mental well-being and health. I think it's surely an immense learning and something that we need to apply to our lives. And thank you for being out here and sharing your insights. And it's just been amazing, and I would like to wish you all the best in whatever that you're doing. It's just been amazing, the amount of work that you're doing, and in this space at the moment. And for bringing about this awareness and change, I think may you find more hands to help you out. And you're already doing it, but I just hope more people get to know about this and also help you out. So thank you again. I think it's just a pleasure to
Oh.
have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Rita. This means so much to me. Thank you to you for starting this wonderful podcast
Thank
and
you.
putting out all of our thoughts out there, no matter how messy they are. Thank you for being such a wonderful presenter and curator. I wish you the very best and wish that there are so many more people that come on your podcast that you can learn from and whose messages you can be a wonderful channel to spread out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's really kind of you to say all of those. Thank you so much.